करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
We were talking about the three gunas and the times of their manifestation. What we need to remember in this portion of three gunas is that the gunas are different types of mental textures. So as definition, by extension of which the entire manifestation of the world itself is the three gunas. So you find every aspect of the world is an expression of the three gunas. You take any gross aspect, it is said even the subtle aspects like our devatas are also not exempt in this classification. What is interesting is even the Puranas they have classified into three gunas. So that means anything apart from Brahman which is under the spell of Maya has to be influenced by the three gunas which are part and parcel of the Maya. This is the definition you can see. And our complex system of this body-mind, this is also an expression of the gunas. When we probably get to Tattva Bodha, we will read it in detail. The subtle body is made up of the sattvic and the rajasic aspect of the elements, and the gross body is made up of the tamasic aspect of the elements. Apart from the body mind, what is there which is Atma is that which is beyond all the gunas. So we cannot but we have to get ourselves used to dealing with the gunas. Dealing with the gunas in ourselves and dealing with the gunas in the others. So how do we really assess ourselves? How do we really assess others? For this purpose, the only tool that is available for us is the gunas. And as we said, there is no other literature which deals with the gunas in as much detail as Vedanta, particularly Bhagavad Gita. And then we concluded with the classification and the characterization of the three gunas, which is talking about various bonds, various ways in which the desires manifest, etc.
Your mission in life should be to raise yourself from tamas to rajas to sattva, and your goal to reach trans-sattva. Trans-sattva is the state of self-realization, God-realization. As you drop your tamas and rajas, you attain more and more sattva. As you continue the spiritual pursuit, your sattva gradually displaces all rajas and tamas. But sattva alone cannot exist, since the human being is essentially made up of all three gunas. Consequently, pure sattva transforms itself to trans-sattva. You become the Supreme Self, liberated from the persecutions of the body, mind and intellect. From the balcony of the Self, you watch the procession of perception, emotion and thought go by. You must pull yourself out of these temperaments and attain the trans-sattvic state. You may have to initiate action where inaction prevails. It needs your personal effort. The trouble with most people is that they want others to work for them while they remain idle. They listen to many discourses and do little thereafter. All the lectures of sages and saints are of no avail unless you are prepared to lecture to yourself. Reflect and contemplate on what you have heard or read. Thus must you learn to raise yourself by yourself.
All the three gunas have to coexist till self-realization. So, one way of describing self-realization is also guna atita. This portion also comes in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We gave the symbolism of the three brothers in Ramayana, which is Ravana, Kumbhakarna and Vibheeshana. It's very clear that Ravana represents Rajas, Kumbhakarna Tamas and Vibheeshana Sattva. All three brothers have to coexist together for the kingdom of Lanka to be there. What happens towards the end of Ramayana is interesting, that Ravana and Kumbhakarna get annihilated by Rama. And what happens to Vibheeshana? Vibheeshana at that point of time, he reaches the feet of the Lord. So this is also a further extension of the symbolism that towards the end of the spiritual journey, Rajas and Tamas will get destroyed and Sattva cannot sustain by itself. Sattva merges into Trans-Sattva. Trans-Sattva here is Lord Rama, and Vibheeshana goes and surrenders to Rama. This is also one symbolism that we can take there. So the essential point is that 99% half and half, that makes it 100%. All that is possible pre-realization, before that. Upon realization, it is not 100%, it is infinite. So from 99.99 it goes into infinite. So this is the point that we need to remember, and our mission in life is to move from tamas to rajas to sattva. All of us have all the three gunas. We are also made up of a certain combination. That certain combination makes us our existing nature, and definitely our existing nature is best suited for our evolution. But our focus must be to promote the sattva that we have, whatever we have, more and more. Wherever there is tamas, there you need to infuse rajas. Wherever there is rajas, there you need to give direction towards sattva. A food for thought is that one cannot directly jump from tamas to sattva unless otherwise he passes through the intermediate stage of rajas. One has to see a thing that is under the ground cannot suddenly reach the heaven or the skies. It has to come above the ground and then it has to slowly rise itself towards the skies. So under the ground is tamas, above the ground is rajas, and when you go to the greater heights it's sattva. So one has to necessarily go through the three stages. It is not the question of how long you must be there or can you quickly pass on. All that is possible, but it has to go through the passage of the rajas. You think of it in any way. A person who is extremely idle, extremely tamasic and lethargic. So one day he listens to something and can he directly go to the state of meditation? It is just not possible. Now what is the reason? The reason is that the desires that we have are a kinetic energy. All this was dormant all this while when it was buried underground. So once they are shaken up, they are released, they will find their fulfillment. They are wanting to go towards their fulfillment. Once they have started flowing, then they can be directed, they can be controlled and they can be guided. But from the seed state itself, it cannot directly, you cannot burn it. You cannot try to wish it off like that. It is just not possible. See, the point is that you have taken this embodiment means that various vasanas, various desires have already fructified. And those fructification of desires also takes various development and various stages for it to manifest in this lifetime, in this embodiment. So, we could be that we might have a lot of sattva in us, but it is just that that conducive atmosphere has not come and we have not put in effort to manifest it. So the author says in this portion that as far as the spiritual seekers are concerned, whichever areas that you have tamas, you try to infuse activity. He is going to say, even if it is selfish, self-centered activity, it's okay, but try to infuse activity, get him sort of shaken up into activity. Once a person starts moving, once the car starts moving, then it can be, we can accelerate into greater heights, and then you can direct it properly. See, in a different context, obviously, Swami Ramatirtha gives the example of a famous Indian sport called the Gilli Danda. It is played all over India in different names. It's called. You have to make a small piece of wood travel a long distance. That small piece of wood is lying on the ground. You cannot hit that you have to hit it with the other stick, but you cannot hit it with the other stick directly from the ground and make it travel a long distance. Since both the end of the small piece of wood is sharpened, it sort of stands on the middle, it's balanced. So what the boys do is that they hit the gilli with the one end. On the one end, they hit it with the stick. Once the gilli rises to some level, then to hit it for a long distance is possible. So, Swami Ramatirtha gives this example in the context of wanting to raise the mind to a great height. If you want to send the mind soaring towards the self, towards the transcendental, towards a higher vision, you cannot directly do it. You need to elevate the mind to some level. That elevated mind, which is somewhat inspired now, can be directed to a greater distance, a greater height, for which he gives certain techniques, like how you will read texts like Yoga Vashishta and some other, meditation, and some techniques that he gives as an intermediary process. Now, as I said, this context of the example is something different. But why we brought that here is that from the level of the ground, suddenly it cannot go to the level of a great height. You have to raise it a little bit. Similarly, from the level of extreme tamas, suddenly a person cannot transform himself into pure sattva. You have to pass through rajas. It is not black and white. See, already there are various areas in which sattva is there within you. Various areas in which rajas is predominant in you. And it is very clearly manifest. And the areas in which the tamas are there. We need to be very watchful and careful with reference to tamas, because, as we said, tamas is a delusive quality. Tamas is ignorance of ignorance. So what you need to do is that whenever tamas seems to manifest, if you are alert to that, do some activity. The moment the mind says, let's see later or something like that, you need to immediately act on it. That is what it is. Even at the cost of your agitation, it's okay. Agitation, at least we know it is rajas. So in tamas, what happens is that when you go to sort of sleep and forget everything, you feel that you have crossed over everything. That's not the case. It is only submerged within your system. So it is better to fight it out at that level. And once rajas is infused, action is infused, then the action can be given direction. That's what the author says here.
As you move from inaction to action, you slip into another difficulty. You become involved in your activities, attached to things and beings of the world. You do not realize that you are persecuted by your own action and possession. Learn a simple law of life. Just inasmuch as you claim possession of anything, you remain possessed and obsessed. you tie one end of a rope around the neck of a mule and hold the other end in your hand and claim the mule as yours. You believe the mule has become your slave, that it is subordinate to you. The reason for your claim is that the mule cannot leave you. The mule has lost its freedom to you. It is true. But then the converse is also true. You cannot leave the mule either. You cannot leave the mule because the mule cannot leave you. You have become a slave of the mule. If you are free to leave the mule, so is the mule free to leave you. By enslaving the mule, you enslave yourself. So it is with the world. The moment you claim possession of the world, you are possessed by the world. It is the law. People the world over have been self-centered, selfish, and have developed a mania for possession proprietary. Their efforts are all directed to acquisition, aggrandizement, accumulation of material wealth. The craze for mindness, the fever of possessiveness rages in their mind. This attitude has ruined the peace of mind in human society. You must therefore avoid developing a sense of mindness towards objects and beings. The feeling of possessiveness towards your possessions enslaves you, turns your life miserable.
This is the formula that he says, when the movement happens from tamas to rajas, obviously the manifestations of the rajas will come. And one of the deadly features there is this attachment and possessiveness. A very interesting line is given there, that to the extent that you claim possession over the world, to that extent the world also possesses you. You cannot escape it. At any level. To the extent that you possess the world, you are possessed by the world. It is mutual. Now, how does this function? Each and every object, each and every being in this world has come independently, has to go independently. Definitely there is a mutual coexistence. There is a connection with every other thing, that is understood. That is how the universe is created. In fact, in our scriptures it is given as the Indra's net. Imagine there is a wide web, a net which is net, and at each and every joint there is imagine there is a crystal or a mirror, small mirror that is there hanging. Each and every crystal or the mirror reflects each and every other mirror. So there are infinite reflections constantly there. Our coexistence in the world is like that. So each and every one of us are mutually interconnected. That is there. That is there. But we put in special effort to bind ourselves, like at the physical level, tying ourselves with a rope to an object. Swamiji also gives this example often, that you imagine yourself tied to a chair with a rope. When you get up, the chair also gets up. It's painful. If chair was a living being, it will express its pain. For the chair also it's pain. For you, definitely it's pain. Your back will be not alright if you always do like that. You can sit on the chair, get up from the chair. If you maintain that sort of a detachment, there's no problem. The problem comes only when you attach yourself to the chair with the rope. In this example, it is clear how you tie yourself with the chair. The rope is visible. But what is not visible is the invisible ropes of our bondage, our possessiveness, our attachment. And without knowing, we tie ourselves with various objects and beings in the world. So what happens? When you are tied to another object, we said in the beginning, you have an independent movement, the other object or the other being has an independent movement. Your movement is affecting the other movement, and the other's movement is affecting your movement now because of this connection. Imagine in this beautiful solar system, how it functions is that the Earth, Mars, Venus and other Mercury planets are placed nicely at a distance. All of them have a direction and a speed, but all of them are focused towards the sun. And that is how the solar system is functioning beautifully. This is the natural order of the system. Imagine if Earth and Mars were to develop a very close friendship. Friendship is fine, but then based on the friendship they tie themselves with a big rope. Not possible, but imagine there's a big rope connecting these two planets. There will be a chaos. The Mars and Earth, which are having different masses and different velocity and direction, Venus and all, they'll probably collide, they will collapse, there will be a chaos in the system. This is what exactly happens, and happens at the mental level. We don't realize it. When Swamiji talks about parents' possessiveness about the children, all those may seem, either very scary or very exaggerated, but it's a very fundamental truth. Because of their young age, they have no choice and they sort of have to withstand the pressure. Once they get a chance, when they get into teenage, they just want to relieve themselves. See, the parental guidance and control is very essential. We are not saying, of course, they have come through you, you have the responsibility towards them. You are the trustees. But the focus on, particularly nowadays when there is a single child and there is entire focus of the father, mother on the child, it pressurizes the child. See, it's not that our ancestors, grandparents were any extra brilliant than us, but by the sheer circumstance where they had 5-6 children, every household had like that, they cannot afford to focus on a particular child. So all of them were forced to give and take and sacrifice and live with each other with all the adjustments. They have to see the same TV program, or they have to take turns to take bath, whatever it is, and something or the other will be there, and the parents have to work hard to make the ends meet and make them grow. So where is the time for them to get extremely possessive or attached? Time and energy itself was not there. Now, we are not saying whether that is right or wrong. That was the circumstance in the old days. Now the difference is there. Various reasons also is possible. Population, you can say various things are there. That there is no that big family. There's no siblings, etc. So what happens is that the focus of the parents in the name of love is actually possessing the child. So they don't have the breathing space, and that pressurizes them. So that invariably, Swamiji says that they turn out to be either rebels or they turn out to be vegetables. Vegetables means they become extremely insensitive, and they do not know, they are non-reactive. They become extremely non-reactive. To that extent they become numb. or they become rebels and they want to quit home, or they want to be against the parents or something like. All this is basically created by the parents, but with good intention. With all their good intentions, love and affection, when it is polluted by this me-mindness, this selfishness, that's what the passage says. It is all over the world, it is selfishness that creates this problem. So therefore, the mule example is very relevant. A person holds the mule and he says, the mule is my slave. So the one Mahatma asks, how do you say it is a slave? Because it cannot run. I control the mule. So he says, do you realize that you are also controlled by the mule? You also cannot run away because the mule holds you. To the extent that you hold the mule, you are also held by the mule. This applies to any degree of samsara. A person can have just a small thing, only one thing, and he can be extremely possessive about it, and that will torture him mentally. A person can be in full samsara, so to say, in a family life and not be attached to anything. So it is all to do with our mental attitude. In one way, the Guru is described as one who takes away your possession is a thief. One who takes away the sense of possessiveness in you is the Guru. That's the true Guru. The true Guru is concerned with only one thing, that is your ego. He is not bothered about anything else. In fact, if you have that attitude of surrender to the Guru, he will at all times do something or the other to crush your ego. That is his only concern, nothing else. He may be apparently harsh. He may be apparently putting you down in front of others. All those things, it's only understandable between the disciple and the master. He is not, the moment you boast about something, moment you talk something great achievement, that does not impress him. And for the sake of impressing, you need not say something else. The point is that he is only concerned with your sense of renunciation, nothing else, your sense of dispassion. And you have to catch hold of such a Guru only, or he is the true Guru. A person, you can, with the modern facilities available, technology available, and with your intelligence, you can learn the subject material. That is there, books are there, anything can be done. But why do we need to sit under a Guru and learn these things? Because he is not just teaching you the lessons, he is actually transforming your personality from inside. He enters your personality, as it were. He only knows that. And that type of a relationship you can have only when, that type of a sadhana you can have only when there is an interaction with the Guru. So a Guru is one who is there to take away your possessiveness. Second point here is, what really matters is the sense of possessiveness only, not the possessions. He is going to further describe, a person can be having all the things in the world and yet be having a dispossessive attitude, and vice versa. A person can be having just one thing and he can be extremely possessive. Swami Ramatirtha, he writes about socialism. He has actually written about everything. In fact, his essay about capitalism is not available for us. Based on lawyer's opinion, the Ramatirtha Pratishthan has not published it. But whatever topic he takes, or he writes about, or he talks, he does it from the point of view of self only, nothing else, because nothing else he knows. And from that level, how he dissects and explains it to the last stage it's amazing. So there was a lot of boost to socialism during his time when he lived. It was in a very infant stage. And the essential aspect of socialism is that individuals need not possess anything. There is a collective possession. Let's say the government holds it, and it is equitably distributed for the benefit of all, is the idea. Whether this idea will, it has failed actually, obviously. Communism, socialism, all this ism has failed. 100 odd years is a very big time for it to, for us to analyze. But this is the idea, very nice, and that is why when till the time that people start earning their own money, everybody is a socialist only. You ask any youth, they will want all the money of the rich to be taken and distributed with the poor. So each and every person has to go through this phase of socialism. One of the greatest intellectuals of the modern era in India, unknown. As Swamiji says, best of the intellects are not known. Sitaram Goel, some of you might have heard about him. He died in the early 2000s, I think. At the turn of the millennium, he passed away, but a giant, sort of a lone warrior. Many of the modern thinkers club these three, this trio, and many of them, they have turned, these three have been their inspiration. Ram Swarup, Sitaram Goel and Arun Shourie. Even Arun Shourie, of course, later we know his certain way in which he interacted, and these things have changed, but no one cannot discount the colossal work that he has done. And they've all, it's sort of a tapas that they did, that they went into the original source, original history of India, seen through the original source as written by, let us say, the Islamic invaders and their court people, and they brought out certain truths which still we have not been awakened to. So, and Ram Swarup is the mentor of Sitaram Goel. Sitaram Goel was also an atheist communist in his young days, and then he turned as a staunch Hindu. How I Became a Hindu is one of his small books. So he was a very, very sharp and intelligent person. So Ram Swarup says, you are very intelligent, you are too intelligent not to become a communist. That means you will find even in communist parties, and I think very sharp, very, because these are very fired people who are fired by that ideal and ideology, that equitable distribution and everything there. So you will find sharp people there. You are too intelligent not to be a communist. Then he says you are too intelligent to remain as a communist also. And that is the transformation that's very difficult and that will take a long time if you are true to yourself. Okay. Now why I was saying that is everybody goes through that phase. Socialism. In China, when they wanted to introduce this, they say it as a joke, I do not know, but it probably conveys the point that they said, all of you should plant the seed. That is your duty. Few generations later, everybody will get the fruits of it. When this was said, there was hardly any reaction from the people. Then they said, you plant the seeds, your own sons and daughters, next generation, they will get the fruit of it. There was some reaction, some people did. Then they understood, they said, you plant it, you will get it. Only then there was a lot of thrust to the movement. See, this basic mind says, what is there for me? And that it wants. So you cannot bring in an order which is not natural and then impose it upon the people. There are so many jokes about this communist Russia. In one of the lectures, a professor told, They were wanting to explain this concept, socialism, collective possession, wanting to share with everybody, all these things. So they said that, a poor peasant was there. So he was told, you have 10 acres of land. For you, 5 acres is more than enough. Would you not want to distribute or share this other 5 acres with somebody who doesn't have? He says, of course, yes, I have to do. Then they said, you have 10,000 rubles, that is the Russian currency. And 5,000 is more than enough for you. Would you not want to share the other 5,000 rubles with your friends who don't have the money? He says, of course, it has to be shared. Then they said, you have 4 goats. 2 is enough for you. Would you not want to share the 2 goats with somebody who don't have? He said, no. Why? Because I actually have 4 goats. He says, I actually have 4 goats and I cannot share that. See, he was okay to share the land which he didn't have. He was okay to share the money that he didn't have. But when the question came to the goats, he actually had, and he was not ready to share. This is what is the tendency. So it is like something like this. Suppose you say, let everybody study and write exams and get marks. We will total all the marks, take average and distribute that average mark to everybody. How is it possible? Then do you think that everybody will get more marks? No. The person who is studying well and getting more marks, he will not be inspired to study more. He will also he will shrug his shoulders. And what is the inspiration for him? So first inspiration for us is to see what is there for me. Somebody quote, I think Churchill. In capitalism, wealth is unevenly distributed. In socialism, poverty is equally distributed. Now, I am not saying, capitalism need not necessarily be the only alternate method for this. There is another method, various other methods, which probably ancient China and ancient India, they were practicing. So here Swami Ramatirtha says, okay, this idea that everybody must have that equality of possession is fine, but that's not the natural order. Okay. So what socialism says is that you must not have your individual possession that will be equally distributed. He says Vedanta is the real socialism. It says irrespective of your possession, if you are not having that possessive attitude, how does it matter? If you are having the possessions and I feel equally happy about it as though it is my possession, that's what it counts. So therefore, what really must be inculcated is this attitude of dispossession, attitude of not having any possession. You may be a pauper, you may be a king, and according to your karma, whatever is provided, you must have. Bhajagovindam gives that formula, Yallabase nija karmopattam. Whatever you get by your nija karma means your own action, be satisfied with it, be content with it. Because not everybody has to have that same standard of measurement. And this is what we are doing now. Each and everything by comparison, by peer pressure, we are trying to fit everybody into that same mold. And then everybody's natural instinct and natural way of expression is actually getting curbed. So, here he says, when you slip from tamas to rajas, this is bound to happen. There is bound to be attachment, there is bound to be possession, and this will make you a slave. Just as the other object becomes your slave, you also become the slave of the other object or the being. So it is a mutual sort of destruction. Why don't you just maintain the distance and enjoy the relationship? That is how this portion slowly leads to that famous poem called Even This Shall Pass Away. But before that, the author continues here.
The feeling of mindness, possessiveness, is unrelated to the quantum of wealth you possess. You could be extremely wealthy, possess a large fortune, and yet maintain a dispassionate attitude towards it. a dispossessive feeling towards your possessions. You can entertain the same feeling even in penury. The sense of dispassion, the attitude of dispossession, develops as you identify with the higher values of life. And with the goal firmly set on the trans-sattvic state, on the Supreme Self, your craving for possession and proprietary fades away. You relate to the world with dispassion, a sense of renunciation. An attitude of renunciation towards the affairs of the world is a sattvic quality. It remains the same through prosperity and poverty. This idea has been well brought out in the characters of Janaka and Sudama in the scripture. Janaka was a king with an abundance of wealth. Sudama was a pauper. Regardless of their material status, both were men of exceptional renunciation. Their mind was set on the Supreme Self within, with little value for material wealth.
So what really matters is the attitude. In Tirukkural is a very famous book, Tamil literature, which is even given the title of Vedas. It is talking about all the aspects of the world in terms of the three Purusharthas that we know, Dharma, Artha and Kama. Moksha is also indicated, but the main focus of the book is these three. In that he is talking, and each is divided into 133 chapters. Each chapter has 10 verses. So all the topics that you can think of in the world, be it friendship, be it husband and wife relationship, be it rule of the king, economy, agriculture, the rules of the war, everything has been covered there. Worshipping God, everything is covered there. Dharma, Artha and Kama. One of the chapters is talking about renunciation. In that Kural comes, it says, I'll say it in Tamil first. It says, Yadanin, Ningiyan, Nondan, Adanin, Ilan. Of all the 1330 Kurals, this is the only Kural in which the lips don't touch each other. In the Sanskrit also, you know that there are 5 sets of consonants, vargas, of which one is labial, which is this papa, bha, and ma. So pa and ma sound are the only sounds where the lips touch. You try to say these two letters without the lips touching, it will not come. All other consonants and vowels come from various parts of the mouth, but with the mouth open. But ma you cannot say, pa you cannot say. That's why in the Om also Swamiji says the sound culminates in It culminates there, it ends there. So in this Kural, probably Thiruvallur reminds us that the real renunciation is non-attachment, not touching actually. The lips are not touching. The meaning is, from whichever object you have distanced yourself, from those objects there is no trouble for you. A very simple law. From whichever object you have distanced yourself, there is no trouble. If a person is attached to cricket, let's say, the results of the cricket has to have some impact on him. He will either jump with joy or sink with joy. For example, his sister is not interested in cricket. She may see cricket along with him, but she is not touched by the result. So from that thing, there is no trouble for her. For this person, it could be something else. So if you are able to consciously practice renunciation, Of course, there's a big chapter that's coming up later. We'll see in detail. Whatever object you are distancing yourself from, there is going to be freedom there. There's absolute freedom there. This type of a freedom is enjoyed by renunciates, and it is their mental status. It has nothing to do with their possessiveness. Possessions. There's nothing to do with their possessions. So he gives the example of King Janaka, who is a jnani himself, and Sudama, who is also a jnani, Brahmanishta. But Sudama's life is always in extreme penury, very much troubled for even meeting the day-to-day expenses also. He ran a family, big family. In fact, Krishna says, you don't need a family, yet you would have got into family life just to show to others how to lead a life. And that is the life of Sudama, whom Krishna considered his own self. That's Sudama. And King Janaka, who ran a kingdom, was again untouched. So these examples are given in the Shastras. Extreme examples are given to show that it has nothing to do with what you possess. On the other hand, there are also stories, not just in scriptures, in real life, in recent past also, that a person who has given up his kingdom and sitting in front of a temple and having just a begging bowl, yet the Guru says he is attached only to the begging bowl. Once he realizes that, he breaks the bowl and he goes on to realize the self. That's the story. Bhadragiri is the name of that king. Some say it is the same king as the Bhartrahari, but we do not know the historical authenticity of it. But he is the disciple of a great renunciate called Patinathar in South India, who himself was a great businessman who renounced everything, and he became. And this king renounced everything and became his disciple. But the Guru was able to point out that possessive attitude just of the begging bowl that he had, and he developed a friendship with a dog. So he broke the begging bowl on the head of the dog, killed the dog, broke the begging bowl, and he went on to realize the self is the story. Now, the point is that a person can be having just one thing and he can be very possessive about it. A person can have everything and not be possessed about it. Ambarisha was another great king like that. He was Sarvabhauma. Sarvabhauma means ruler of the universe. Sarva Bhumi. All Bhumi, he was the king. And yet, everything he considered as a Loshtavat. Loshtavat means piece of mud. That's it. What is the big deal about all the 7 lokas and everything? It's piece of mud. Paramahamsa used to do, we heard in a lecture, one hand he had this, what is this, money. In Bengali they say taka. And in another hand he had the stones or soil, mati. So he used to throw both in Ganga and say both are same, mati and taka. Some of them jokingly say he knew the value of mati that's going to go up like this in the 21st century. That's why he equated these two, he said. That is the value. He was extremely very careful not to be touched by any of these things. So, how does this happen? So, the author says, it is based on your value for something higher. So, mind definitely craves. So, turn that craving to something higher. Crave for the self. Have only value for that craving, then all other things will automatically fall into place. So renunciation is essentially setting right values. Renunciation is not giving up, it is taking up something higher, based on which right value is set for all other relationship. This sense of right value determines your sense of renunciation. At any level, it is renunciation which is giving the joy. Of course, we will see this in detail, but renunciation is the key to success. Renunciation is the backbone of Vedanta. Again, Paramahamsa says, Tyagi and Gita are the same. You repeat, In Bengali, they don't pronounce that ya with emphasis. So tyagi, they say tagi. So tagi becomes Gita. Gita and Tyaga are one and the same. It is renunciation which is the backbone of Bhagavad Gita, which is backbone of Vedanta. So renunciation we will see in detail. Now this portion goes on to the poem.
If the world today wishes to be truly civilized, it must instill the spirit of service and sacrifice in the society. The spirit which would develop the attitude of dispassion towards object and being, possession and relationship. People must learn to become more impersonal, more skilled to work for the welfare of the community than their own. That would determine the dignity and prestige of a human being. As the spirit of dispassion grows, you become more detached from the affairs of the world. The fluctuations of the world no more disturb your inner peace and happiness. You become more and more objective in life, less and less involved in and affected by the happenings around you. You then observe the world as a witness. View your own life as an actor would upon the stage. Theodore Tilton drives home this idea clearly in his striking poem. The poet presents the king of Persia as a picture of detachment. The king engraved a maxim on his ring: even this shall pass away. Rooted in the highest values of life, he revelled in the spirit of renunciation. He would not identify with the best or the worst that the world offered. The king was blessed with wealth and woman, name and fame. So did he face the pangs of disease, decay and impending death. But he had little to do with them. He maintained an attitude of perfect objectivity, remained ever peaceful and blissful through the fluctuations of the world. The poem.
If only we get this art of being impersonal in our activities in the world, it's a great boon. Even relatively, it is just to distance yourself and view everything objectively. That is being impersonal. So for which you need to set the sight on something higher. In the 90s, Mark Taylor was the captain of Australian team. Australian team was reaching its peak under his captaincy. And then it further continued under Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting, but he was one of the foundations. There was a match against Pakistan in, I think, Lahore, where Mark Taylor, being the captain, was 334 runs not out at the end of the day. And at that point of time, 334 was the highest score by an Australian at that point of time, Don Bradman's score. And he was just 41 runs away from Brian Lara's then world record of 375. You don't get to score triple centuries every now and then. Very rare are people who have even scored 2 triple centuries in their career. Very rare. Bradman, I think. Sehwag. After a long time, Sehwag did. Not any other stalwarts. Not Richards. Richards never scored a triple century. Not Sobers. Much later, Lara came and Sehwag and a couple of people only. So you don't get a chance. Even for Taylor, this was his only triple century. So the team's consensus was that he has to bat further, and within the first hour he can easily score and break the world record. But ignoring the team's plea, he went on to declare, and Australia won the match. This is impersonal attitude. You don't play for personal records. That comes. I mean, whatever comes, comes. And if you look at our heroes, they're all having so many records. But at that point of time, India as a team was not in the top 5. Now it has changed. See, when the team wins, your records also soar actually. But you do not play for your personal records. This is an impersonal attitude, and a leader should display this more than anybody else. So in this poem, which is translation of a Persian poem, original is Persian, that's why the king is Persian. He is going to talk about the attitude of a king. This king of Persia had this written on his ring that even this shall pass away. So whatever be the experiences and conditions that he met in life, he would always remember these lines only, even this shall pass away. And it gave him instant solution, solace, counsel, everything at a glance. He went through all the positive and negative experience. That's the beauty. He was not somebody who was sitting under a tree and not doing anything. He was in the thick and thin, like King Janaka. He was running a kingdom, and he was amidst all the pleasure, money, whatever you can think of, in abundance. And yet, in and through all the experiences, he maintained this poise, this attitude. It is very easy to say when you lose something, everything will go, like that. But only a person who maintains this attitude when everything comes also, when he gains everything also, he knows what he is talking even as he loses something. And finally, the poem culminates in the ultimate experience of death also. So death is some experience that is not known to him. And there also he says, even this shall pass away. So this poem we will take in the next class. No promotion. No. Right. If there are any questions, you can unmute and ask.
I wanted to ask, how can a spirit of service and sacrifice bring about dispassion? That you can be very passionate about that.
Right. See, good question. The spirit of service and sacrifice is with reference to not the people who you serve. See, let's say a mother in the house or a grandmother in the house is actually displaying the spirit to an extent, if you see that. For the sake of her children, her grandchildren, she will sacrifice her sleep, she will do various things. But she is obviously caught in that family circle, you can say, but she feels inspired with that service. So deep down there is a passion for that. But most of us, when we work in the circle of our own family circle, and we do activities based on that. But when you do in the true spirit of service and sacrifice, when there is as much as possible my connection in that, and what is there for me, that connection is that is what is creating a dispassion. So dispassion here is, in a way, what you can say is creating a passion for something higher. So you cannot work without a passion, but that passion has to be set on something higher. And then once you enjoy the work for the sake of work itself, which is obviously, in the background you are working towards the self, that is the thing. But you just enjoy, suppose you are building something, a castle in the sand also, with the children. You put in all the efforts to do it and it comes out nicely. Next day a wave may take it away, or a camel may walk on it, or a horse may run on it, that's fine. But that is what is the sense of your dispassion in you. But at that point of time you do it with full passion. And how are you able to do it? You are not doing it for yourself. It does not affect you. Maybe you are playing with a child, or you are doing it for the sake of just enjoying it or something like that. So it brings about a dispassion in that way. No promotion. No.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate समुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।